a change to this legislation. The way we're working this is we'll still be able to pass this piece of legislation unamended, unchanged, with a letter of intent from the chairs and ranking members of the small business committees of both the House and the Senate, together a commitment from the majority leader, and we can pass this as is, and we don't have to delay it. We're just this close. And so I'm objecting at this time. Give us a little bit more time to work out that method, and then we'll be able to pass this measure without amendment, no changes, pass this, and then work in good faith together to make those changes that I think we all agree do need to be changed in the future.
Madam
Senator from New Hampshire.
Will my colleague from Wisconsin yield for a question?
Sure.
Do I understand that you think you will have some resolution of this by this afternoon, and so you expect at that point to come back in with another UC request to pass this bill?
Yes, with cooperation from the chairman and the ranking members of both committees, I think we'll be able to get this thing done. And again, I think our request is really very simple, and I'm not the only one. We don't want to see this program automatically reauthorized to the end of December. Now, there's some dispute as to whether the language actually does that. Sounds like the intent was not to do that. It was just to allow people to spend money through the end of December, which we have no problem with. It's just the
Which is my understanding.
Pardon?
That's my understanding of the bill, that it doesn't allow you to apply for the loan through December.
So again, we just,
only through the end of
but
June.
CRS actually interprets it as a full authorization. So we just need to show what that true intent is, put that letter into the congressional record, so that we are certain that we're not reauthorizing this or authorizing it through December 31st, that the authorization does end June 30th, so that if we do want to put more funds into a program like PPP, that new program will have the type of directed reforms that I think we really could gain agreement on.
So, President, I thank my colleague. I would simply say it seems to me he has it a little backwards. We should pass this bill and then work on the changes, not hold this bill up. Who knows what can happen? Maybe it'll happen today, maybe it won't. We have the moment to do it now. We've waited 2.5 days. We could have done the UC Monday. We waited till Wednesday afternoon. We're leaving here tomorrow at about 1 o'clock. The House is not in session now. It would be very, very wise and helpful to small business, and I've talked to many of them all across the country, to pass this bill now, and then we'll work in good faith on the small change that my colleague wished to have.
But again, would the gentleman yield?
I yield.
The way we're working this out, there will be no change required. It's just a letter for the congressional record stating what I believe the intent was, just to allow people to spend to the end of December. We're just working out the details of that language, and then we'll be able to allow this to pass with unanimous consent. And by the way, I've got other members that were objecting to this to agree to this change as well. So again, just give us a little bit more time, agree to that language. Hopefully the ranking member would agree with that letter for the congressional record, pass this bill unchanged. And then in the future, because this PPP will expire June 30th, but the need does not. So if you've read my article in the Wall Street Journal, I've got a number, I think, of innovative ideas of what we can do to help restore capital for businesses that are going to need it to reopen our economy. And I'd love to work very closely. I've obviously got experience in business and small businesses, and would like to work with the chairman and ranking member of the Small Business Committee.
Madam President,
Senator from Maryland.
if the gentleman would yield, you've mentioned several different issues, and I appreciate the fact we're trying to get this done today, and you're indicating that we have a path forward to get this completed this afternoon, the House bill, so it can go to the President, which is our objective, so that small business owners understand the 24 weeks before their loans expire and understand the additional flexibility on how they can spend the money, because they're making those decisions literally today. You mentioned several different issues that you were concerned about, but it appears like the one area that you're seeking consensus here deals with the authority to issue a loan under the PPP program through June of this year, which is what the law is, and I don't believe it's changed by the House bill. Is that the issue that you are seeking to get consensus from the ranking member and chairman?
I believe so, but again, there's dispute in terms of what the language actually says. Again, I have no problem in the full $660 billion that's already been appropriated to be spent whenever. But I don't want to reauthorize a program past June 30th without the types of reforms that we can talk about, and then we'll pass through regular order. So again, what I'm suggesting here is just wait until we have this letter for the record of intent. We're just asking the chairman and ranking member of the small business committees of both houses to sign, agree to and sign, and then we'll pass this bill as is, unchanged, to give those small businesses the certainty we want to provide them.
Madam President, I was just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be signing as ranking member of the committee. So if I understand, because you had mentioned problems with the 60%, you mentioned problems with...
We'll deal with those in the future.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we had a...
No, I have no demands other than the one, and again, we're so close, and we're first working on our side, and then we'll consult you, and maybe we pass this yet tonight or early tomorrow morning. I mean, that's my goal as well.
Madam President,
Democratic leader.
if my friend from Wisconsin is willing to delay the other changes he wants and try to work those out, it would make eminent sense to delay this one as well and try to work that out and pass this bill. You never know what happens. We should pass it today, not wait for tomorrow. We should pass it now, not wait a few hours. Lord knows what can happen. Businesses are crying out. I mean, I think us moving here will move the process forward. It wouldn't have moved as quickly, I think, if we didn't move the bill, but it's still a better bet to help small businesses, even with the concern my colleague has, to pass this bill now. And I'd make one final plea: let's pass it now. If not, we should pass it today.
I'm happy to come back or let you come back and ask for unanimous consent if we get this hammered out, and I won't object. But at this point, I'm going to object until we have this hammered out.
Well,
okay?
let's hope.
Madam President, I object.
Yield the floor.
Madam President.
Senator from Maryland.
You want to talk on the same one? I'm going to a different... Madam President, I rise today as the United States of America again faces the enormous challenge and responsibility of striving to live up to the preamble of the Constitution of the United States. The preamble provides, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." I note that our founders, who were far from perfect when it came to racial issues, thought that justice was more important than domestic tranquility. They listed justice first. Today, America is grieving over the brutal and unnecessary death of George Floyd in Minneapolis on May 25th. Both the state and federal law enforcement officers are moving quickly to bring the police officers, in this case, to justice and hold their accountability for their actions. As Mr. Floyd cries out, "I can't breathe," went unanswered as life drained out of him. Video taken by several witnesses show that George Floyd, who was black and was unarmed, was handcuffed and pinned to the ground by a police officer who held out his knee against Mr. Floyd's neck as he pleaded for his life. Mr. Floyd was on the ground repeatedly, telling the officer that he could not breathe. And despite that fact, that the bystanders are all heard on video begging the officer to relent, he did not remove his knee from Mr. Floyd's neck until after an ambulance arrived. Eventually, Mr. Floyd lost consciousness. He was pronounced dead after being transported to a local hospital. Madam President, as leaders, regardless of party, we cannot stay silent about George Floyd's death. Black lives matter. George Floyd was a father, a son, and a brother. His life mattered. He did not need to die. He and his family deserve justice. How many other black men and women have died at the hands of law enforcement or vigilante civilians due to the color of their skin, but not been caught on video? Those victims deserve justice too. We must act, working together to fundamentally reform the ways police across this nation interact with the communities they serve. On Monday night, President Trump once again failed to lead this nation in a time of crisis, and he has forfeited his moral authority as president.